First contact. The Zaperian Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years without losing a single war. Their massive crystalline ships moved through space like floating mountains, each one capable of reducing entire worlds to ash. Supreme Commander HFY stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Might, his four arms crossed as he surveyed the star charts. His silver exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's blue lighting, and his compound eyes reflected the wisdom of countless victories. "Report," HFY commanded, his voice carrying the authority that had crushed rebellions across 50 star systems. Navigator Zelth approached, her movements fluid and precise. "We have completed our sweep of the Outer Rim territories, Supreme Commander. 17 new worlds catalogued, all showing signs of primitive development." HFY nodded. The Dominion's expansion had been methodical and unstoppable. They would arrive at a world, demonstrate their overwhelming power, and accept the inevitable surrender. It was a pattern that had worked for millennia. "One system requires your attention," Zelth continued, activating the holographic display. A small yellow star appeared, surrounded by 8 planets. The third planet shows unusual energy signatures. The blue-green world rotated slowly in the display. HFY studied it with interest. Life signs. Approximately 8 billion sapient beings. They call themselves humans, and their world Earth. Technology level is primitive, but advancing rapidly. HFY's mandibles clicked in amusement. Another young species to bring into the fold. Military assessment. Minimal space presence. Chemical propulsion. Basic energy weapons. No energy shields. They appear to be divided into numerous competing factions. "Perfect," HFY said. Divided species were always easier to conquer. However, the energy signatures you mentioned. Zelth's expression became uncertain. "That is what troubles me, Supreme Commander. Our sensors detect massive electromagnetic bursts from their surface, but no corresponding technology that should produce such readings. Natural phenomena. Unknown. Also, their communication networks are incredibly complex. They transmit more data in one day than most civilizations do in a year." HFY dismissed this with a wave of his upper arm. "Chattering primitives. Send a scout fleet. Standard intimidation protocol. They will surrender within a cycle." Captain Mordak commanded the scout fleet that approached Earth's solar system 3 weeks later. 12 ships, each the size of a city, emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. Their arrival sent shockwaves through Earth's primitive detection systems. On Earth, the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council was unlike anything in human history. President Martins of the Global Defense Coalition stood before the assembly, her face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, first contact has been made. 12 massive ships have entered our solar system. They are not responding to our communications." The room erupted in concerned voices. Ambassador Chen from the Pacific Alliance leaned forward. "What are their intentions?" "Unknown, but given their size and our inability to contact them, we must assume the worst." General Harrison of the Terra Defense Force stood up. "Our space-based defenses are online. All military personnel are at highest alert. We've also activated the Prometheus Protocol." Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a network of hidden defense systems developed during the Cold War and expanded in secret for decades. On the bridge of his flagship, Captain Mordak watched Earth with casual interest. The planet's primitive satellites had detected them, as expected. Soon the humans would receive their ultimatum. "Open a channel to the planet," Mordak commanded. His communications officer, Sub-Commander Vexel, activated the systems. "Channel open, Captain." "Attention, inhabitants of Earth." Mordak's voice boomed across every radio frequency, every television broadcast, every communication device on the planet. "I am Captain Mordak of the Zaperian Dominion. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender your weapons, disband your military forces, and prepare for colonial administration. You have 72 hours to comply. Resistance will result in the elimination of your species. The transmission ended. Mordak settled back in his command chair, satisfied. In his experience, primitive species took between 12 and 48 hours to surrender once they understood the futility of resistance. He was completely unprepared for what happened next. Instead of the expected panic and surrender, Earth's response was immediate and coordinated. Every major city on the planet went dark simultaneously. Communication networks shifted to encrypted channels. Military forces didn't stand down. They vanished. Captain Vexel reported with confusion, "We're detecting massive movement on the planet's surface, but our sensors cannot track individual units." Impossible. Their technology is primitive. "Sir, I'm also detecting energy buildups in locations our initial scans showed as empty." Mordak frowned. "Show me." The display revealed dozens of energy signatures appearing across Earth's surface, each one more powerful than what their technology should allow. Underground facilities were coming online, revealing themselves for the first time. "What is this?" Mordak muttered. His answer came in the form of a new transmission from Earth. This time, it was President Martinez speaking directly to the fleet. "Captain Mordak, this is President Martinez of Earth. We've received your message. Here's our response. Earth is not for sale, not for conquest, and not for you. You have 72 hours to leave our system. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety." Mordak's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "They're threatening us." Before he could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. "Captain, multiple launches from the planet's surface." The display showed hundreds of missiles streaking toward the fleet. Mordak laughed. "Primitive rockets. Our shields will absorb them easily." But as the missiles approached, they began to change. Each one split into dozens of smaller projectiles, creating a swarm of thousands. The Zaperian shields, designed to stop large impacts, were overwhelmed by the sheer number of small, precise strikes. Warning alarms blared as the first shields flickered and failed. The follow-up strikes punched through the hull, causing critical damage. "Evasive maneuvers," Mordak ordered, but it was too late. The humans had somehow calculated the exact positions and movements of the fleet. The missiles struck with surgical precision. 2 scout ships were destroyed outright. 3 more were crippled and drifting. The remaining 7 managed to retreat to the outer system, their crews in shock. "How?" Mordak demanded. "How did they penetrate our shields?" His science officer, Kellamar, reviewed the attack data with growing amazement. "Captain, they didn't use brute force. Each missile was programmed to exploit microscopic weaknesses in our shield harmonics. They studied our technology and found flaws we didn't know existed. In 72 hours. Sir, I believe they've been preparing for this scenario for decades. Those energy signatures we detected, they weren't weapons. They were computational centers. The entire planet appears to be one massive calculation network." Mordak stared at the blue-green world with new respect and growing fear. "Send a message to Supreme Commander Kethvar. Tell him we need reinforcements." "How many ships, Captain?" Mordak thought about the precision of the human attack, the speed of their response, the fact that they had somehow anticipated Zaperian tactics. "All of them. Send everything we have." On Earth, President Martinez stood in the war room deep beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, the greatest military minds of humanity worked at computer terminals, analyzing the retreating alien fleet. "Status report," she commanded. General Harrison looked up from his station. 7 enemy ships retreating to the outer system, 5 destroyed or disabled. No casualties on our side. And the Prometheus network. Operating at 60% capacity, we can handle a larger force, but not indefinitely. Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of the Prometheus project, approached the president. "Ma'am, our analysis of the alien technology is revealing. They're incredibly advanced, but their tactics are rigid. They expect surrender, not resistance. Will they be back?" "Certainly. And they'll bring more ships next time." President Martinez nodded grimly. Then we prepare. Activate all defense protocols. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you threaten humanity. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Eternal Might, Supreme Commander Kethvar read Captain Mordak's report with growing disbelief. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever successfully resisted the Dominion's first contact protocol. Impossible, he muttered, then read the report again. Navigator Zelth approached cautiously. Supreme Commander Captain Mordak requests immediate reinforcement. He suggests a full battle fleet. Kethvar's compound eyes reflected the starlight as he considered this. A full battle fleet meant 500 ships, enough to crack a planet's crust. He had never needed such force against a primitive species. These humans, he said slowly, what else do we know about them? Very little, Supreme Commander. They appear to be a young species, but their behavior is unusual. How so? Most species we encounter are unified when faced with external threats. These humans fight constantly among themselves, yet they coordinated a planetary defense in less than 3 days. Most species surrender when shown overwhelming force. These humans seem to have prepared for a fight they had no reason to expect. Kethvar stood silent for a long moment, considering the implications. Finally, he spoke. Assemble the second fleet. We will show these humans the true power of the Dominion. The entire second fleet, Supreme Commander. That's 500 ships. Yes, and ready the planet killer cannon. If they refuse to surrender again, we will make an example of their world. As the massive Zaperian fleet prepared for war, humanity made its own preparations. The Prometheus Protocol had been decades in the making, born from the paranoid genius of Cold War strategists who had imagined threats from the stars. Hidden facilities across the globe came online, revealing technologies that had been waiting in silence for this moment. But humanity had one advantage the Zaperians couldn't understand. They had never lived in a galaxy where surrender was expected. For humans, resistance wasn't just an option, it was instinct. The first battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. The war begins. The Zaperian Second Fleet arrived at Earth's solar system like a plague of metal locusts. 500 ships, each one a monument to the Dominion's power, emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Supreme Commander Kethvar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Might, surrounded by his most trusted officers. This time, there would be no mistakes. Deploy the battle formation, Kethvar commanded. I want every approach to their world covered. They will not surprise us again. The fleet spread out across the solar system, creating an impenetrable net around Earth. On the planet's surface, warning sirens wailed as humanity prepared for what might be its final battle. In the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, President Martinez watched the tactical display with grim determination. The alien fleet was massive beyond anything humanity had ever faced, but the past 3 weeks had not been wasted. Report from all sectors, she commanded. General Harrison's voice was steady despite the circumstances. All defense grids are online. The Prometheus network is operating at full capacity. Hidden bases on Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt are ready. We've also activated the Sleeper Protocol. Dr. Chen looked up from her console. The Quantum Entanglement Communications Network is stable. Every defense installation is linked in real time. We can coordinate attacks across the entire solar system instantaneously. President Martinez nodded. The Sleeper Protocol was humanity's most desperate gambit. A network of automated defense systems hidden throughout the solar system, designed to activate only in the event of an existential threat. Some had been drifting in space for decades, disguised as space debris. And the civilian population, evacuated to the deep shelters. Every major city is empty. We're ready for whatever they throw at us. On the bridge of the Eternal Might, Kethvar opened a channel to Earth. This time, his message was different. Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Kethvar of the Zaperian Dominion. Your resistance has cost the lives of brave Zaperian warriors. For this crime, your punishment is death. However, I am not without mercy. Surrender now, and I will allow 10% of your population to live as slaves. Refuse, and I will reduce your world to molten rock." The response came immediately, but not from President Martinez. Instead, it was broadcast from every human settlement across the solar system. Earth, Luna, Mars, the space stations, even the mining colonies in the asteroid belt. Millions of voices spoke in unison, in hundreds of languages. But the message was the same. No. Kethvar's mandibles clicked in rage. So be it. Begin the bombardment. The Zaperian fleet opened fire with weapons that could shatter continents. Beams of concentrated energy lanced toward Earth, followed by missiles that could crack tectonic plates. It was a display of power that had made entire star systems surrender without a fight. But as the attack reached Earth's atmosphere, something unprecedented happened. The energy beams struck what appeared to be empty space and were deflected harmlessly into the void. The planet-killer missiles detonated prematurely, their explosions absorbed by invisible barriers. "What is this?" Kethvar demanded. His science officer, Thalrin, stared at his instruments in disbelief. "Supreme Commander, the entire planet appears to be surrounded by a defensive field we cannot penetrate, but our sensors show no technology capable of generating such a barrier." "Impossible. Show me the energy source." The tactical display revealed the truth that made Kethvar's blood run cold. The shield wasn't generated by a single source. It was created by millions of them. Every human city, every installation, every hidden facility was contributing to a planetary defense grid that operated as a single, unified system. "They've turned their entire world into a fortress," Thalrin whispered. Before Kethvar could respond, Earth's counterattack began. But instead of the primitive missiles from the first encounter, humanity unleashed weapons that defied Zaperian understanding. Space itself seemed to twist around the alien fleet as gravitational anomalies appeared without warning. Ships found themselves pulled off course, their formations broken. Then came the real surprise. Attacks from directions that should have been impossible. "Captain, we're taking fire from directly behind us," reported the tactical officer of the cruiser Stellar Dominance. "Behind us. There's nothing there." But the attacks continued, striking the fleet from every angle. The Zaperians quickly realized they weren't fighting visible enemies. They were fighting the solar system itself. Dr. Chen smiled grimly as she watched the battle unfold from her command center. "The Mirage Protocol is working perfectly. They're fighting ghosts." "Explain," President Martinez demanded. "We've been seeding the solar system with cloaked drones for decades. They're made from metamaterials that bend light and sensor waves around them. The aliens can't see them, can't detect them, but they're everywhere." On the screen, another Zaperian ship exploded as invisible attackers struck its engines. The proud alien formation was dissolving into chaos as ships tried to defend against enemies they couldn't find. But humanity's masterstroke was yet to come. As the Zaperian fleet struggled against the invisible assault, every asteroid in the belt suddenly came to life. What the aliens had dismissed as space debris revealed itself to be part of a vast automated defense network. Thousands of hidden installations, some disguised as asteroids for decades, others built into the hulks of derelict ships, activated simultaneously. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they projected a coordinated electromagnetic pulse that swept across the entire solar system. The effect on the Zaperian fleet was catastrophic. Their advanced electronics, unprepared for such a coordinated attack, began to fail. Ship after ship went dark as their systems crashed. The mighty Second Fleet found itself blind, deaf, and helpless. "Engineering report," Kethvar shouted as his own ship's lights flickered. "Supreme Commander, all our systems are experiencing cascading failures. It's as if every piece of technology on the ship is being individually targeted by a different attack frequency." Kethvar felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of conquest. Fear. How is this possible? His communications officer managed to establish a weak connection to the other ships. The reports were the same across the fleet: total system failure. Out of 500 ships, less than 50 were still operational. That's when Earth's final surprise revealed itself. The attack stopped. The electromagnetic pulse faded. For a moment, there was silence across the solar system. Then President Martinez's voice reached every functioning Zaperian ship. "Supreme Commander Kethvar, this is President Martinez. As you can see, we could have destroyed your entire fleet. Instead, we chose to disable it. This is humanity's offer. Take your ships and leave. Never return to this system. In exchange, we will allow you to retreat with your lives." Kethvar stared at the tactical display, showing his crippled fleet. In a matter of hours, humanity had reduced the pride of the Zaperian military to scrap metal. But they hadn't killed anyone unless they had to. "Why?" he asked, opening a channel to Earth. "Why spare us?" President Martinez's image appeared on his screen. She was smaller than any Zaperian, but her eyes held a strength that made Kethvar step back. "Because we're not conquerors, Commander. We're defenders. We don't want your empire. We just want to be left alone. You could have destroyed us. Yes, but destroying you wouldn't have solved the problem. It would have just brought more of your kind, angrier and more determined. This way, you go home with a message: humanity is not to be conquered." Kethvar considered his options. His fleet was crippled, his crew was defeated, and his enemy was offering mercy. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever shown such restraint after achieving such a victory. "What guarantee do we have that you won't attack our worlds in return?" "You don't," Martins replied. "Just as we had no guarantee you wouldn't attack us. But we're not you, Commander. We don't conquer for the sake of conquest. We defend ourselves, and then we go home." The Supreme Commander looked around his bridge at his officers. All of them were staring at him with a mixture of defeat and amazement. They had just witnessed something unprecedented in Zaperian history: a complete military defeat followed by unexpected mercy. "Very well," Kethvar said finally. "We will leave your system. But understand this, human. Word of this defeat will spread. Other species will come, drawn by stories of the world that stopped the Zaperian dominion." President Martinez smiled, and for the first time, Kethvar saw something in her expression that made him truly understand what humanity was capable of. "Let them come, Commander. We'll be ready." As the surviving Zaperian ships limped out of the solar system, their hulls scared and their pride shattered, they carried with them a new understanding. The galaxy had changed. For the first time in millennia, there was a species that could not be conquered, would not surrender, and chose mercy over destruction. Within a year, the story had spread across the galaxy. The Zaperian Dominion, once the most feared military force in known space, had been defeated by a species barely out of its home system. Some alien civilizations viewed humanity with fear, others with respect, but all viewed them with a new understanding. Earth had become the first world to stand against the Dominion and survive. But more than that, they had shown that strength didn't have to mean conquest. That power could be used for protection rather than domination. In the years that followed, other species would come to Earth, some as potential conquerors, others as allies seeking protection from the Dominion. Each would learn the same lesson that Kethvar had learned: humanity was not to be underestimated. The galaxy had its first true protectors, and they were a species that had learned to fight not for conquest, but for survival. In a universe full of predators, humanity had proven that sometimes the best defense was simply refusing to become prey. And in the deep command centers beneath Earth's surface, the Prometheus Protocol continued to evolve, preparing for the next threat that would inevitably come. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all: in a hostile universe, the price of freedom was eternal vigilance. The war was over, but the watch had just begun.